Mabuhay, this is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. Let's talk about being a nice guy today. Please subscribe. This is a channel about foreigners and Filipinas. I've been married to my Filipino wife for over 8.5 years. This is from experteditor.com, and Tina Fey is her name. I've read some articles from her before. Let's get into this. 8 signs you're being too nice in your relationship and your partner is taking advantage of you. And they start out by saying, let's face it, being too nice often leads to exploitation in our society. Your kindness can unfortunately fuel this. It's harsh reality. We're living in an era of unbalanced relationships, so it makes sense to assess your own behavior based on how it is being received rather than what you intended to convey. What matters even more than your behavior are the implications of your excessive niceness. Below, they've pinpointed 8 signs that are being too nice in your relationship, and that the partner's taking advantage of you, or certainly can. Number 1, you're always the giver, always. And please leave comments here. Think about your relationship right now. Are you always the one giving compliments, planning dates, and making sacrifices? While absorbing these words, you've probably remembered numerous instances of your selflessness, but here's the key question: is it reciprocated? The simple truth is that relationships thrive on the principle of reciprocity. That's a balance where both partners give and take in equal measure. And simply put, that's a non-negotiable. Now, I don't have time to read everything here because I want to leave some comments. And when I put this up on YouTube in about a week or so, I'll have the link to the article so you can see everything. As I've said before, the husband probably in these situations is going to be doing most of the giving early on, and that's to be expected. He has to understand that his Filipino wife doesn't have anything to give him materially, and she comes to his country, she's not going to know anything, and she's going to have to be taught everything, shown everything, and so her giving would have to come in time. It's not going to be, I scratch your back, you scratch mine immediately. Number 2, your boundaries are blurry. This reality dawned on me, they say, when I began to study the dynamics of healthy relationships at university. And they say pop psychology advice on how to maintain a relationship often suggests always compromise or put your partner first, right? While this is widely accepted, it's not an absolute truth. I disagree a little bit on this. They say instead a healthier approach comes from developing a conscious understanding of your own boundaries. It comes from observing your own comfort levels. And that's fine, but somebody's going to have to do the giving right away, and I think that's going to have to be the husband. And if he expects to only give when he gets something back, then that marriage is not going to work. He's going to have to give, and give. That's his job. His job is to take care of her, provide for her. It's not to, if she doesn't want to reciprocate, that's his problem. But his job and his marching orders are to love his wife. And if he can't do that, and he's expecting reciprocity all the time and immediately, then he's going to be the cause for that relationship to end. Relationships are not easy. Somebody's got to go do most of the giving sometimes. And while it can change, I think you do need to compromise, and you do need to make sure that, you're not saying, well, you're not meeting my needs, therefore I'm not going to meet yours. You still got to meet her needs, whether she meets yours or not. That's a hard line, I think, as a husband. I have my role, I have my job, and there's nothing that can interfere with that. Not how I'm treated, not what happens in the world. I have responsibility, and I am going to do that. Anything less than that gives me an excuse to mope and feel bad about things. Now, yes, I'm not, so you'd have to read this article. I can't go into everything here in only 10 minutes. And I'm not saying I completely disagree with her, but I don't think you can have 50-50, and I have said that a lot in my videos. Number 3, you're being too nice when you're afraid to say no. I agree with this. They say, how many times you've agreed to something in a relationship, even when everything inside you screamed no? Well, if that's the case, you're not a good leader. You're the CEO of that marriage. If you think something is absolutely wrong and bad and dangerous and harmful, you better say no, no matter what the consequences are. Your job is to protect her and to make wise decisions. You should never be afraid to say no, because there are going to be times you're going to have to, no matter who you're married to, that are going to cause her to be unhappy with you. And if you're afraid of that, you're not ready to be married. So you cannot be a good leader and be afraid to say no. You listen to her, you understand her reasons why, you try to get her to understand your reasons why you don't like something, and if it's not just some petty difference, well, go ahead, and let her have her way, of course. But if you really think something is bad, don't do it. And they list a few common situations. This might happen. Changing plans. You cancel your own plans to accommodate your partner's last-minute requests. That's frustrating. Financial decisions. You go along with financial choices, even if they're not in your best interest. Think of what's best for both of you. That's me. Physical intimacy. You consent to physical intimacy when you're not really in the mood just to please your partner. I also disagree with that one. The Bible says to render to each other, to do benevolence. That's literally the debt. It's also called not depriving one another, and that's talking about sex. If you deprive your spouse, then you are being selfish, even if you are tired. Now, you can always say, look, I'm really exhausted. Can we do this tomorrow? But don't just say no. Don't just say no, cut it out, I'm tired. That's not good enough. It just isn't. Social gatherings, you attend events or engage in social activities that you don't enjoy, simply because your partner wants to. Well, you're going to have to do that once in a while, and she's going to have to do that once in a while with you. So I don't necessarily agree with that one either, with number 3. Number 4, you feel guilty for your needs. You should never feel guilty. State your needs. You need to know her needs. She needs to know yours. That's me talking there. Number 5, you're always apologizing. And yes, it does go both ways. I have to apologize, and my wife has to apologize. But if you're always apologizing, then you're probably not communicating about things that you're afraid to communicate about because you're worried about the consequences, and you can't do that. 6, your happiness is secondary. I don't really have a problem with my happiness being secondary. I married her for her benefit, not for a 50-50 relationship. And the more I can bless her, the more I can be good to her, the more I can be happy, make her happy, the more she tries to please me and be a good wife. So I'm not 100% sold on this one, although she's not here to talk more about this, and I don't have time to read everything about this. But again, on YouTube, I'll put the link out there. 7, you're being too nice if you're losing yourself. You start losing touch with who you are. That's fair. 8, you rarely acknowledge, or you rarely receive acknowledgement. If you're a good man, you want to acknowledge everything she does well and that you appreciate. But if you rarely appreciate it, or you rarely receive acknowledgement or appreciation, then you should say, look, it bothers me when you don't recognize me when I do this for you. I do these things for you because I love you. I don't know if you just don't love me, or you're shy, or you think you don't have to tell me, but I'd like to hear that you can acknowledge and appreciate what I do. I need to hear that. And you should be okay with telling her that. And I think that was the last one, so let me hurry up and read this. Their thought, bottom line, maintain self-identity in kindness. Being nice in a relationship is a beautiful quality, but it should never equate to losing yourself. In the quest to be a loving and supportive partner, your individuality, needs, and happiness are just as important. A truly healthy relationship is one where both partners can thrive without overshadowing each other. That's very true. So, if you find that your kindness is turning into self-sacrifice, it's time to pause and reassess. I don't agree with that. I think self-sacrifice on the part of the husband is one of the main things he's going to have to do to be a good husband. And then they say your opinions, desires, and well-being matter. Of course, nobody would dispute that. Reflect on these 8 signs, questions your intentions and actions, and strive for healthier dynamics in your relationships. Because being nice should never equate to losing yourself. Well, it depends what they really mean by that. But I think, here's my philosophy real quick. I think the more you give of yourself to her, the more you're going to get back. Keep that in mind when looking for love beyond the sea.